As a doctor specializing in men's health, one of the questions I'm often asked is masturbation harmful for men over 60? The simple answer is no. But that's not the most important or interesting part. The real questions are, do men still have the desire to masturbate after 60? How does common age-related sexual dysfunction affect that? And what about the impact on heart health? These are questions worth exploring, because while aging does bring changes, the conversation around male sexuality in later life is still under-researched and often overlooked. So, I dove into the latest medical literature and uncovered some fascinating insights that I'll be sharing with you today. And to all of you who are part of the Seniors Healthy Today community, thank you. Your continued support means the world to me. That's why I'm starting with a special video made just for you. Masturbation is one of those topics that never fails to attract attention, especially when we're talking about older age groups. Why that is, I'm not entirely sure. Perhaps it's because for many, there's still a lingering sense of taboo around something that's completely natural. In fact, I've already created a video discussing the biological basis of masturbation from an evolutionary perspective. Feel free to check it out. But let's be honest. One of the most fundamental truths about aging is that everything declines over time, including sexual function. So it puzzles me a bit that the topic still generates such intense curiosity. After all, it's completely normal for sexual activity to decrease with age. For context, a 2010 U.S. population-based study involving nearly 6,000 participants aged 14 to 94 showed that among men aged 70 and above, about 28% reported masturbating in the past month and 46% in the past year. Compare that to men aged 25 to 29, where the rates were significantly higher, nearly 69% in the past month and 84% over the past year. More recently, a 2021 study out of Norway surveyed over 4,100 adults aged 18 to 89. Among the 342 men over 70, about 22.5% had masturbated in the past month. Very similar to the earlier U.S. data, even a decade later. These numbers help us see a clear trend. While the frequency drops with age, sexual behavior, including masturbation, does not disappear. It just becomes more varied, and that's something worth understanding without shame or stigma. What's truly fascinating is that, in one study, men over 70 were actually more consistently active in terms of monthly masturbation than younger men under 30. Surprising, isn't it? Only 4.5% of men under 30 reported masturbating in the previous month. So what's going on here? I'll explain in a moment. But first, let's put this in perspective. Among those who did masturbate, 17.5% of men under 30 did so daily, a level of frequency that only 0.6% of men over 70 maintained. So while the younger group may be more intense when active, the older group appears to be more evenly spread in occasional activity. Now, most people assume that masturbation is always closely tied to sexual desire. That's partly true, but not entirely. A comprehensive meta-analysis published in European Urology Focus in 2020 reviewed 75 studies and offered some valuable insights. Looking at sexual desire across different age groups, the data confirms what we'd expect. Desire generally declines with age. But, and this is important, there's huge individual variation. Among men aged 70 and older, sexual interest still ranged from 16% all the way up to 80%. In other words, age does not automatically equal disinterest. Many men remain sexually curious and active well into their later years. On the flip side, erectile function does tend to decline more predictably with age. That same meta-analysis showed that somewhere between 80% and 94% of men over 70 experience erectile difficulties. The average estimate? About 70%. Still, there's variation here too. What many don't realize is that orgasm and erection are not one and the same. It is entirely possible for a man to achieve orgasm without a full erection, especially as the body adapts with age. One final point here. While erectile dysfunction tends to cause a great deal of anxiety in younger men, older men tend to be more accepting of it. And that difference in emotional response is just as important as the physical changes themselves. Interestingly, this concern over erectile dysfunction isn't nearly as prominent in older men. While up to 70% of men aged 60 to 70 reported being bothered by erectile difficulties, that number dropped to between 6.7% and 48% in men over 70, and down further to just 38% in men over 80. So what does that tell us? As men age, many become less distressed by these changes. They may accept them as a natural part of life, or they've found other ways to experience intimacy and pleasure. Now let's talk about motivation. Masturbation isn't always about sexual satisfaction. In fact, research suggests the reasons are more complex than we might assume. For example, the Norwegian study I mentioned earlier found only a weak link between how often men masturbate and how sexually satisfied they feel overall. Another large-scale study involving over 20,000 men revealed that many engage in masturbation not just for physical pleasure, but to manage anxiety, reduce stress, or simply feel more connected to themselves. So what's the takeaway here? It's this: use it or lose it. Sexual function, like any other aspect of physical health, tends to decline with age. But staying active, whether that means partnered sex, masturbation, or other forms of intimacy, can help preserve it. And yes, that includes masturbation as a healthy, natural activity that supports long-term sexual well-being. In my practice, I've seen many older patients, men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, who found new romantic partners, often through dating apps. The excitement is real, but so are the challenges. Many of these men haven't been sexually active in years, and when they attempt to reconnect with their sexual selves, they run into difficulties. Why? Because after long periods of inactivity, certain physiological changes, especially in the penile tissue, can occur. In some cases, these changes are irreversible. That's why I often say, staying sexually active, even through masturbation, can help maintain sexual function. Let me be clear, though, there's absolutely nothing wrong if you no longer feel the desire to engage in sexual activity. That's completely normal, too. What matters is that every man is different. What's fulfilling for one may not be for another. There's a wide spectrum of experiences, and all of them are valid. Now, regarding heart health, a common concern, there is little evidence to suggest that masturbation poses any significant cardiovascular risk in healthy older adults. That said, this video is not a substitute for personal medical advice. If you have concerns, especially about your heart, I strongly encourage you to speak with your doctor and get a proper checkup. And finally, if you found this video helpful, feel free to leave a comment. I do read them. Just keep in mind, I can't provide individual medical advice in the comment section for legal and ethical reasons. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves.